Welcome once again to Gaffing the Truth. It's myself and Scabs the Clown right over there, where we tackle the hot button issues of weird shit. That's kind of our gig. Today, we're going to be talking about the Anunnaki. And if you guys aren't familiar with the Anunnaki are, that's fair. I didn't realize I knew who they were beforehand, but the Anunnaki are better known as the ancient astronauts, which has been part of the pseudo mythos for creation of the human race for at least since the 60s. Well, at least that's when I think people were writing about it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Is we're going to talk about ancient astronauts, and it's like, well, we are talking kind of about aliens, but we're being very specific and like honing in stuff like versus general stuff. So we're gonna do from time to time. So how's it going, Scabs?
It's going. Been all right. Been busy, but busy's good. Busy's really good. Been doing the haunted house. Been working on some other side projects. Just keeping myself busy like I always do. What about you? How's things?
It's been good. Now that Halloween's done, my life got less crazy. I moved into a new place, which last Monday I did the show literally like right after I moved a bunch of stuff, and the house has now come together. It looks really, really cool, or at least the apartment. So I really like it. I'm in a really good space. It's like an older type of apartment complex, so it's kind of like a history to it. So it's like it was built like in the 70s,
Oh,
and so
right
it's
on.
like it's one of those like 30-unit places that's completely like a big block that has a pool in the middle, so everybody's facing the pool. That sort of space. Within walking distance of really cool, like two different bars are pretty where I really like that I would love to go to, but I can't because people are idiots. So I don't trust people in bar settings. So
Nah, I've been to a couple bars now, and it's like, I don't know how I feel about going back.
no, I mean, especially when Texas has been going, like Texas is over 1 million cases right now of COVID.
Yeah.
To put that in perspective, is if Texas was a country, like some people wish it were, they would be number 10 in the most amount of cases in the world when it comes to COVID.
Damn. Woo! Go Texas.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm not going out and doing anything. I work and then I come home, and that's what I do. I have no intention of going to go see live stuff, even though it'd be really awesome. And outside stuff is better than inside stuff, which is really cool. That I wish I could be down to go see the haunt stuff because it's outside. That's all
Yeah.
right ish, but it's better
Yeah.
than
We've also got a Creepy Hollow. We have an ambulance out there that does on the spot COVID testing. You can do an antibody test where they actually check your blood to see if you've had it before, or you can do just the regular nasal swab. But they don't even go all the way back anymore. They just go right into the nostril.
well. They finally figured out where it hits. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's the fun? For a bunch of sideshow people, what's fun in that? I mean, we want that full like deep experience.
Yeah. I was calling it job security. Nobody wants to do that. Everyone hated it. And I was like, yeah.
So let's get started with our topic, which is the Anunnaki. Actually, I know I did a bit of research. Like the Anunnaki is based on actually a much older term, which is like the ancient Assyrians and Babylonians, the Akkadians. That's just where their gods and pantheon names come from. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
the old gods. Like this is
Yeah.
like pre Greece, pre Rome, pre a lot of stuff. We're getting into like that Sumerian period of like old gods.
Yeah.
Um,
And you want to know how old? This is an excerpt from the book Slave Species of the Gods, The Secret History of the Anunnaki and Their Mission on Earth. Scholars have long believed that the first civilization on Earth emerged in Sumer some 6,000 years ago. However, as Michael Tellinger reveals, the Sumerians and Egyptians inherited their knowledge from an earlier civilization that lived at the southern tip of Africa and began with the arrival of the Anunnaki more than 200,000 years ago. Sent to Earth in search of life-saving gold, these ancient Anunnaki astronauts from the planet Nibiru created the first humans as a slave race to mine gold, thus beginning our global traditions of gold obsession, slavery, and God as dominating master. So that's a good rundown right there, like because the theory behind the Anunnaki is they come from planet Nibiru. It's a dying planet. They used gold for a lot of their things, to like it can, survive in space. It's a conductor, everything. And their planet was running out of it, so they, went around looking for it, found Earth. They're like, oh man, there's a ton of gold here, but we need somebody to do it. So I'll have to find it. But they actually brought a slave race with them, and the slave race was a little too unruly and kept, revolting and fighting back. So they genetically altered that slave race and created humans. We were a little more docile. And then they grew to actually kind of like humans. They're like, all right, these guys are pretty cool. They work for us. They're easy to take care of. And they're like, all right, guys, have fun. Here, you can join our cities and, live amongst us, but try not to reproduce too much. Yeah, and you know how much
7
humans hate
billion
trying to
lives later.
reproduce. Yeah. And then they were like, it's being overrun with humans. God, they're reproducing too fast. We got to go. So the Anunnaki left. But since they liked the humans, they were like, y'all can have the planet. Here, build these pyramids. So we have like a kind of like a star map to know how to get back here. And here, this is how you build stuff. So that's why we got building technology and learned how to use our hands to create structures. That's why
So,
like ancient civilizations were all about, pyramids and temples and statues and everything.
so basically, Stargate.
Yeah, pretty much. Nibiru is a planet that is on an elliptical orbit with our sun. That's why it's Planet X. It's, the hidden planet that, they claim it's about Neptune size. They can kind of prove it, but there's no definitive proof. They're like, this shows that there's another planet going this way, but they've never seen it. They don't know what it is. And they feel like it, because it's further out than Pluto, it's actually takes 50 to 100,000 years to make one rotation around the sun.
Okay.
It's all theory. They don't know for sure. That's why, or maybe they do know for sure, and that's why they don't want to tell us.
All right.
No, go ahead.
No, just it's so I did some digging about it as well, but I went more into like the actual less pseudo archaeology, more mythology. Um, so the earliest known usage of the term of the Anunnaki comes from inscriptions actually written during the reign of Gudea or Gudea from like 2144 BC. Or basically the third dynasty of Ur, which is the Sumerian.
Yeah.
And really, it comes down to things like Sumerian pantheon, because the deities of the Sumerian pantheon were all descendants of the sky god who is known as An.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a group of deities included, which were the 7 gods, because basically it's the idea of the Anunnaki when it comes to mythology was there were 7 judges or 7 gods. So An, Alil, Enki, Ninhursag, Nana, Utu, and Inanna. Of those, Inanna actually has that still has. I know a lot of pagans and Wiccans who use Inanna as one of their goddesses. But it's one of those things that there's no other than that. Like there's not a really lot of stuff on that, and a lot of people there's been a lot of inconsistencies when it comes to the writings, the actual writings from the day versus the newer stuff that people are saying it comes into the same thing about what they could do or not do, and it's like reading comic books where for the longest time Superman's powers is sometimes he flew, sometimes he couldn't fly, sometimes that, sometimes this before they hammered it down.
Yeah.
It's
He
kind of what
started off
happened.
being able to only leap tall buildings. He couldn't fly.
Yeah, that's the example. That's a really good, more modern example. In fact, is before they really honed in on the mythology, there was a lot of inconsistencies, and so by the time that mythology hammered down, that's when it became different gods and stuff like that, and so on and so forth. Um, what's some other fun stuff that I like? There's actually a book called Inanna's Descent into the Netherworld, which actually only discussed that there were only seven. Though there's other stuff that says there was more. Um, and all of the gods of the time period were very much linked to places and weren't just like generalized. The sun, outside of An, who was the sky god, everyone else was like descended like people. Like Anana was linked towards Venus and towards what city, and so on and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. Uh,
Yeah. They claimed a lot of different ones. Like they were represented by the or by a certain planet or the sun.
yeah, that's the idea. So because they're
Mm-hmm.
actually fixed points versus like when we get to the Greeks, which basically is it's it's Zeus, the god of thunder. It's Jeff,
Mm-hmm.
the god of hairdos, and so on and so forth. Uh,
Yeah. There's this right here from Wikipedia. The ancient Mesopotamians believed that their deities lived in heaven, but the god statue was a physical embodiment of the god himself. As such, cult statues were given constant care and attention, and a set of priests was assigned to tend to them. These priests would clothe the statues and place feasts before them so they could eat. A deity's temple was believed to be that deity's literal place of residence. The gods had boats, full sized barges, which were normally stored inside their temples and were used to transport their cult statues along waterways during various religious festivals. The gods also had chariots, which were used for transporting their cult statues by land. Sometimes a deity's cult statue would be transported to the location of a battle so that the deity could watch the battle unfold. The major deities of the Mesopotamian pantheon, which include the Annunaki, were believed to participate in the assembly of the gods, through which the gods made all of their decisions. This assembly was seen as a divine counterpart to the semi-democratic legislative system that existed during the third dynasty of UR. That was in 2112 BC to 2004 BC.
that's also the earliest known writings about the Anunnaki was around that time period.
Yeah, but like they would literally take their statues and be like, "You see that thing that dude built? That's God."
Oh, then having walk and taking God, just like basically taking a statue of their God to go. Oh, look at the house I built, God. Now let's go
Mm.
look at this thing. Look, a river, God. Look, a
Yeah, look,
battle. It just
we built you a boat, God. Do you approve? And it's just a statue. He likes it.
and now we have TV and the internet.
Yeah, that's the new God.
It's true. American Gods, man.
It was an all right show for a while.
Well, I think I got this. Like first season's amazing because the producer of that show, the showrunner was Brian Fuller, the guy who did like Hannibal and like Pushing Daisies and all that sort of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So it's great. It's gorgeous as stuff. It's like really good mythos. And then he got fired because his vision cost money, and he like basically go, "Hey, we can't spend that money." He goes, "Well, I don't know what to tell you. This is what the vision is," and but he had such a loyal following. Other people left because of it, like Gillian Anderson left, and some other people did too. And then I think they're on their third showrunner now because like second season had somebody
Yeah,
else different. They didn't last.
yeah, and then they got rid of Orlando Jones.
Yeah, with the one that third, which is like a dude, man,
Yeah,
dude,
Orlando Jones was
Anansi,
my favorite.
man,
What was it? On Siri?
Anansi.
Anansi, that's it. Yeah, Anansi.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
the
spider god, the mischief god.
yep, yeah. And like what's really weird is like when I read the book, my mind of what Anansi was is very different than his portrayal, but
Mm,
it's still very good because
yeah, I've never read the
when
book.
I read it back in I read it in in college. Fuck it, we're gonna get off subject. It's fine. So in college, I took a Gothic literature class, and that was one of the books we read was that book, and so like, and I weirdly enough, I'd already read it beforehand because it's a great book. If you haven't read the book, read so Anansi Boys, which is kind of a sequel ish, but set in the same universe at least, also very good. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I'll give it a try sometime. I've been meaning to read more again. I'm
That's
just
good.
busy.
I recommend it. I've got a book on order right now which has nothing to do with any of that, but there's a new book about Rose's midgets is coming out soon, so I pre-ordered that book, so hopefully when that comes out, I'm gonna read about that. Because side chick.
Right on.
Anyways, God,
There was another
Annunaki.
weird thing I was reading. Although a few depictions of the individual members have been identified, deities in ancient Mesopotamia were almost exclusively anthropomorphic. They were thought to possess extraordinary powers and were often envisioned as being of tremendous physical size. Like they talk about them being 15 to 50 feet tall. The deities typically wore melum, an ambiguous substance which covered them in terrifying splendor. Melum could also be worn by heroes, kings, giants, and even demons. The effect that seeing a deity's melum has on a human is described as "ni," a word for the physical tingling of the flesh. Deities were almost always depicted wearing horned caps, consisting of up to 7 superimposed pairs of ox horns. They were also sometimes depicted wearing clothes with elaborate decorative gold and silver ornaments sewn into them. So I wonder if like that was just a random thing from Monty Python, or if they were just big into Anunnaki and ancient Sumerian texts. So that's where they came up with the Knights of Ni,
Both are valid.
because they were extremely tall.
Well, what also neat, it's all yeah. It wouldn't surprise me because those guys were really nerdy.
Mm-hmm.
So it would not surprise. But it's one of those things I go. I'd see both ways with them just going. I just think this is ridiculous. Like they came up with it like while they were writing stuff and thought it was funny, or like one of them goes, "Hey, here's this really thing we can take the piss on that nobody's gonna get, but we're gonna
Yeah.
get it. We're gonna think it's hysterical."
Mm-hmm.
Because I get because I know for a fact, like watching their stuff, there's a lot of weird jokes. People are going, I don't get that joke because that was an in joke for them because they go, this is funny to us, so we're gonna do this. This is ridiculous, and like we're gonna make it drag for that much longer because it's funnier to us.
Yeah, and like I don't if even if that's not what it means, it's still iconic. That's why I like once I saw the word, I had to pronounce it that way, just because I've
Mm.
seen the Holy Grail. I don't know how many times.
Yeah, I've seen it dozens upon dozens of times. I'm sure. I think I don't know. It's not Life of Brian. That's my favorite, but
Meaning of Life is one of my favorites.
I do love Meaning of Life too. But it's a weird sort of film because it's more about it's much more closer to what the show is like with a lot of sketches versus a really like solid follow through storyline. But I really like Meaning of Life.
Yeah,
As well. It's just the fact that it's lots of but it's like it's segments versus like that kind of tell a story, but it's not like a thorough full story like Holy
yeah,
Grail or Brian.
yeah, and I think that's why I like it, because it's just different. It's different stories that all kind of come together.
No, I think you just like the guy who dies by topless women trying to tackle him.
No, that part's funny, but the dude eating, that's one of my favorite parts.
And see, I think that's the only reason why it's not my favorite. Is I do not care for that. I have a thing about people puking, so that's
It's just
why.
like disgusting humor. Like he just like throwing up everywhere. They give him the bucket to throw up, but he throws up on the guy, and I just laugh my ass off every time I see that.
It's fair.
And then a weffer, and then he
As a
explodes.
waffle scene.
Oh man. So I looked up Nibiru, Planet X, and I talked a little bit about it earlier, but this is actually from NASA Science Solar System Exploration. It says Caltech researchers have found mathematical evidence suggesting there may be a Planet X deep in the solar system. The hypothetical Neptune-sized planet orbits our sun in a highly elongated orbit far beyond Pluto. The object, which the researchers have nicknamed Planet 9, could have a mass about 10 times that of Earth and orbit about 20 times farther from the sun on average than Neptune. It may take between 10,000 and 20,000 years to make one full orbit around the sun. The announcement does not mean that there is a new planet in our solar system. The existence of this distant world is only theoretical at this point, and no direct observation of the object nicknamed Planet 9 have been made. The mathematical prediction of a planet could explain the unique orbits of smaller objects in the Kuiper Belt, a distant region of icy debris that extends far beyond the orbit of Neptune. Astronomers are now searching for the predicted planet. This was posted. What's the date on this? Is there a date on this one? There's an in-depth part.
I do remember, like, cause I was an astronomy nerd, and still kind of.
Yeah.
I just
January 2015. Caltech astronomers Konstantin Batigan and Mike Brown, thank you for the easy one, announced new research that provides evidence of a giant planet tracing an unusual elongated orbit in the outer solar system. The prediction is based on detailed mathematical modeling and computer simulations, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, pretty much just says the same thing.
It's but it could be multiple different. Also, it is a mass of some sort. It may not be a planet. Then that's the thing. In fact, I think I read something about this. Is like it could also just be a grouping of smaller things that kind of just like were just kind of put together around it. Kind of like it's like the remnants of the Kuiper Belt or something like that. It's just a longer pit, so it's not like one. It's like several asteroids like are near each other, kind of like Siri and whatnot. As far as like they're really big in our asteroid belt.
Yeah,
But it's also
that's kind of what I was reading right now. It said astronomers studying the Kuiper Belt have noticed some of the dwarf planets and other small icy objects tend to follow orbits that cluster together. By analyzing these orbits, the Caltech team predicted the possibility that a large, previously undiscovered planet may be hiding far beyond Pluto. The estimate the gravity of this potential planet might explain the unusual orbits of those Kuiper objects.
Yeah, but it may not be one thing. It could be just several stuff. It's one of those things that go. The likelihood of us even knowing what's going on is hard to. All right, hey Azram, this is Gaffing the Truth, where we're talking about weird stuff, and today we're talking about the Annunaki, which are the ancient astronauts. Specifically, we're talking about the planets that they supposedly come from, which is Nibiru, which, based on science, there could be a real thing that exists as far as an place, but whether or not that's a habitable stuff, that's conjecture. So yeah. So
we talk about stuff that has no definitive truth. That's what we're all about. And we get drunk.
Yeah, I actually bought a special tall boy for today too.
So. Did you hurt yourself? You said ow.
Oh, Azram did.
Yeah.
I think he probably meant oh. But do you guys believe it or not? Like whether or not the ancient astronauts existed and if this planet's a real thing. I will state that there is a possibility that there is a real thing possibly out there based on what the mathematical models are. Mm-hmm. Now, whether or not that is a viable planet where things live at.
Yeah.
Currently based on whatever life models we have concerning stuff and things like that, it is highly unlikely, at least in a life form that we would currently recognize as being life. Now, whether or not they sent these ancient astronauts to us back at the beginning of time, quote unquote, and created life,
it's a story.
It's a nice story. I mean, it's.
There's a lot of stories. It also, I mean, it comes from like one of the oldest civilizations on Earth. These were their gods. This is what they believed in. And some of the stuff they said, it's much like ancient Egypt, which we've done an episode on before, where, these, extraterrestrials, someone with flaming chariots from the sky came and helped them. And this is in their religious text. This is, proven. This is what they said. And, whether, they called them gods. And that's how people took it. They were like, oh, they just had to explain stuff. So, it's like any other religion. They made up fantastical stories about it. But did they? Did this really happen? I mean, it also says that we pretty much were created by the Anunnaki, you know, which, I mean, human life being created by another life form, definitely a possibility. Or we're just an anomaly and, you know, we just showed up here. All these different animals all over the planet just kind of showed up here because we have the perfect condition.
Well, the thing is that's
They're
I would
both
think
really
that's
far-fetched and hard to believe, you know, like we just happened or aliens made us. Ta-da.
thanks for next. Yeah, I'm of the opinion that there's a term where people like who try to find meaning out of chaos, even though it's just chaos. But we go, but this thing right here, no, it's just fucking chaos, man. Just live with it. And that's my
Yeah. Oh, and
uh,
I love the chaos theory that, you know, like we are just created from pure chaos. Like the planet had to go through a million changes, explode, burn, flood, um,
yeah,
freeze, everything for it to come together. And we're at the in the Goldilocks zone, is what they call it in outer space, to where we're at the uh, perfect, perfectly far from the sun, where we're not getting burnt up and we're not freezing. So we're just right there in that perfect spot where it's sustainable for all kinds of different life. And it just kind of happened.
yeah.
Or, you know, God created it, or aliens made it, or I like the prison planet theory, where they put a whole bunch of, you know, like we just need to put like all the bad stuff on this planet, and that's why Earth is so crazy.
So we're Australia. Yeah. What do you know talking about how humans did exist?
I mean, who even says we exist? Who says this isn't a simulation? Who says that you're not just having a weird dream right now, Azram? I mean, reality is subject.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons. One of my kind of theories about it is a reality subject, because we all have a different favorite color, which means the eye, the human eye, which we, you know, claim is perfectly made, which it is not at all. I mean, obviously, Jeff is wearing glasses, and I have better than perfect vision. What's your favorite color, Jeff?
it's purple.
Hey, mine too. Okay,
I know
see.
that's a bad example because I know it's our favorite thing. Uh,
Oh, sorry if we're talking too fast for you. We apologize for that. We kind of, you know, we get excited about things sometimes. Um,
yeah.
but like kind of going back to that, so different people, like, you know, my favorite color is purple, but my partner's favorite color is green. And why is that? Why, you know, why can't we all just have the same favorite color? It's because we perceive things differently. I think purple's a really pretty color. They think green's a really pretty color. Some people think like the color brown. They're like, oh, it's an autumn color. I'm like, poop's brown. I don't like brown. You know, brown has, you know, its necessities in nature, dirt, trees, all kinds of things, but it's just not an appealing color to me. But like, there's people who are like, oh, like they don't really have a favorite color. And it's like, oh, you're colorblind or you don't see very well. Reality is all subject to the viewer.
I think as perception is subjective. Reality is still fixed, but it's perception
Mm-hmm.
because that's what's mutable. It's just like truth. Truth is mutable as well. That's why we say gaffing the truth. We're not gaffing the fact. We're gaffing the
Yeah.
truth.
And that's why I like to have things on our show that we don't have proof of, that nobody knows.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
that's
also, like, some people's truth is completely different than ours. You know, there's hardcore Christians out there. You're an atheist. I'm an agnostic. You know, even though our, you know, views are pretty similar.
I just basically my thing is I go I'm willing to change. I just need I need the proof. I need the fact, not the truth on it. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Some people read the Bible and go, "Oh, that's beautiful. That's divine," and some people read it and say that makes no sense.
oh no,
Agnostic is,
it's
I don't know. That's really all it is. I don't know. Is there a God? I don't know. Is outer space real? I don't know. It's You know, why do birds fly? I
We've had
don't know.
enough people. We've had enough people go to space that I'm going. You know, space exists and is real
Does
because
it?
we've had enough
Does
people
it?
go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kubrick did a really good job. You want to talk about that one day?
Oh, we do need to talk about it. But my favorite bit about that is
No,
that
no, I'm not one of those guys. I love outer space. Outer space is real. The universe is a thing. Come on,
it's a
but you
fact.
know, still, like I've never been out there, so I don't know.
Not yet, anyways. Dude. We're like a couple years away. SpaceX is going to be sending people up. Hey,
Hey,
Katie.
thank you, Katie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that I don't know. Like I can't prove anything, so it's easier to say that I don't know than to, you know, what if I'm like, hey, you know, God's blue, and turns out God's actually purple, and then I'm wrong. I don't want people
I
to be
just
like, hey, that's that
I'm
guy who
willing.
thought God was blue.
I'm willing to be proven wrong. That's the thing is I'm not that such a thing where I'm so starved. I would love to have that, but I don't. There's nothing that's been presented to me that shows factually that sort of stuff. And until it happens, that's why I have the stance I have.